जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की
Vajji Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh Ji. Welcome to another session of Coach Gurbani. Ravinder Singh here, joining you from Columbus. And today the focus of our attention is the 8th Pauri of Japji Sahib. Let me just read through the Pauri first, and then we'll see where we go from there. Sunay Siddh Peer Surnath, Sunay Tarat Taval Akas, Sunay Deep Lo Patal, Sunay Pohna Sakhay Kal, Nanak Bhakta Sada Vigas, Sunay Dukh Pap Ka Nas. This pauri is a set of 4 pauris, as you all know. And to me, they are devoted to Sunay, which is literally by listening or through listening. So the first question in my mind would be listening to what? And I think there are some conventional explanations out there, and we'll see if we can challenge those today. So one conventional explanation is that this is listening to the Guru's instruction. The other side of this story is listening to what end? What is the purpose of listening? Because Sunay is clearly marked here as the action to be done, or the action that has already been done as a past participle. But the object is not that clear. And I would think that the object is really the one who is reading this pauri, namely you and I. So if we look at the first line, it is saying here, Sunay Siddh Veer Surnath. So by listening is the correct interpretation, that by listening, do we become a spiritual preceptor, a peer, an adept, Siddh, godlike Surnath, or is the line suggesting that by listening, we begin to understand what these people, what kind of knowledge these people are laying claim to? So that's a point that I want to put out there so that we can discuss it. Because if you look at the pauri, there is a progression here from Siddh Peer Surnath to Tarat Taval Akas to Deep Lo Patal. So there seems to be from the more sort of material to the mental, sort of to the subtle. And the kind of the conclusion in the last 2 lines is Nanak Bhakta Sada Vigas. So there is a suggestion here that those who are engaged in this Sunay, listening, and I think there's a fair amount of conversation that we should have around what Sunay really means. But Guruji is sort of saying that by doing this, having done this, Bhakta Sada Vigas. And I understand Vigas to mean, I have translated it to mean to be forever abloom, to blossom forth. So somebody who has gone through this activity or this action, now the question is it even an activity or an action? But in any case, the result seems to be a burgeoning forth of the mind, the blooming of the mind. That is the end result. And then Sunay Dukh Pap Ka Nas. So I know that we tend to think of dukh as unhappiness, but I was interested in the etymology of this word. I'll share it with you. It was very interesting to me. It comes from a compound of dusht and khai. So if you add the two together, it means being in a ditch, or being in a bad place, or being in a rut. So when your mind is abloom, bhakta sada vigas, then you're no longer in a bad place or in a rut. You're not stuck. And I suppose pap ka nas means, at least to me, that then you're not missing the mark. You're in the flow and you're actually targeting the right things, kind of getting into the flow of things, getting out of the rut that we're all in. So we could easily consider the other three pauris, but I think what I would suggest is that when we discuss this pauri, there's no harm in actually referring to the others, because what I am seeing here is a gradual progression, as I mentioned earlier. And Suniya is sort of the primary focus, and Suniya and Dukh Paap Ka Nas and Nanak Sada Vigas. So having said that, I listened to what Gurjit Singh Virji sent. And I think it might not be a bad idea, Harvinder, for us to start with his understanding of this pauri, because it will, I think, add to the discussion rather than playing it towards the end.
So, today I will share my understanding of pauri number 8. The concept of pauri number 8 has already been initiated in pauri number 7, the last two lines. Nanak nirguni gun kare, gunavantya gun de, tragun metta, kanya sar. These nirgunis are nothing but Rajotamo and Sato. If through the Sach now, which is also referred as Gurmukh Vedam, will help us to gain the gun through the vichar. Now we have attained the two padarths, Gyan Padarth and Upadarth, and now Parmeshwar will give us Padarth and Janapadarth. Gunavantya Gunde, Teha koi na sujay, Jetis koi kare. There is no one else who is capable of giving us Nam Padarth. When we get the Nam Padarth, what are those extra guns which are given, and how the world knows about that is the theme of the next pauri. It is very necessary to distinguish between the two words, Gaviya Suniya, Mani Rakhiye Pao, used in pauri 5 with the Bihari, and it is used 35 times in the whole of the Bani. This means listening or hearing through this Akhri Naam or such Naam. But the word Sunaya, which is used 36 times in Gurbani, out of which 21 times alone in Japji, with the Sihari or Nana, is further being more clarified in Var Saranki on page 1240, where it comes 12 times, Nai Suniye. Suniya has been clarified to Nai Suniye, which means this is the celestial sound or unstuck melody, has been explained as Naam Niranjan Nirmala Suniya Sukha Hui. This is not Akhri Naam, this is Naam Niranjan. So until we distinguish between the two, we cannot really reach the depth of this pauri, because most of this is being understood as by hearing God's name. The reality of earth is supporting bull and heaven is revealed onto the mortal. That's not the fact. What Guru Nanak is trying to tell us is the supreme achievement of a being to be in contact with the Naad. And these four sects, Siddh, Peer, Sur and Naad, claimed that they have heard the celestial sound, or the sound coming from Chidakash. The melody of Chidakash is not a physical sky, It is a sky of consciousness which is in our hearts, in our guts. So what Guru Nanak is trying to explain and what we have understood is a vast difference. Guru Nanak claims that although these four sects are claiming, but the reality is that this is heard in the inner Tarti. We have to define what Tarti means as per Gurbani. Tarta Puneet Pahi Guna Gai. Within my heart, the purity comes. It's not the earth outside which is revolving around sun. Tarta Suhavadi Akash Suhanda Japandya Hari now. This is also happening within my gut. If we are trying to tell that this earth is being supported by bull, Taval Akash is one word. There is a normal Akash, which you see the sky, and there is a Taval Akash. Voice of Shabad travels through Taval Akash, and it only is heard in the Tarti. There is another sect who are saying, Suniya Deeplo Patal. We know this fact that fully enlightened Jyot, like Tithya Bhagavad was saying, below present somewhere else. They have counted in total 7 such heavens. That if that is true, then Gurbani says, Siddha Sadhak Name Nu Sab Khoj De. They're still searching, they have found it. Thakra Lai. They haven't achieved it. If you haven't achieved this Nama first, how can you achieve the Nama? Surnar Munajan Amrit Khoj De. But the Bhagats, so Amrit Gurte Bhai, they've already attained it. About Suniya Siddhapir Surnath is not right. It is just a claim, it's a false claim. Then Guru Nanak further says, Suniya Pohana Sakke Kalam. If you have heard that celestial sound within your heart, in your Tarti, then you should become a Kalamura. You should become a Juni. That is what the Bhagats have claimed. The reality, Ekadasi Ekadista hai, to Joni Sankat Bahut na hai. This is said by Bhagat Kabir ji, and Guru Nanak is laying a claim that this state of listening to the celestial sound, is only achieved by Bhagats, no one else. Nanak Bhagta Sada Vigas. That's why he says this. Suniya Dukh Pap Ka Nas. If you want to get rid of Jamkal, the methodology used in Gurbani is Jo Jan Kare Kirtan Gopal, which we have discussed in the last Pauri. That firstly we have to do Kirtan of Gopal. And once you are in that oneness, then you start the jas. This ko pohna sakya Jamkal. This is a real claim. Nae suniye paap kattiya nirmal sach paave. This is also claimed in Gurbani. So the whole aim of writing this Pauri is that it has been claimed that these people have ideology equal to Vedmat, but they don't stand as equivalent to a Vedmat because Kabir ji has claimed it. Bhakti na chaddo Ram ki. This is what the Vedmat is. That's what Guru Nanak is claiming. When in the log, because these Bhagats are in a state of ever blissfulness, sada bigas, because they have actually heard that sound of Taval Akash. This was my intake on this part. Vahguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vahguru Ji.
Haji, thank you, Gurjit Singh Virji. If you were here, probably a few questions would have been directed at you, but nonetheless, I wanted all of you to actually listen to this first, because I think he's making some interesting points, not necessarily points that I find myself in agreement with, some I do. I think Nanak nirgun gun kare gunvantiyan gun de as a starting point can make sense, because you have to first become, you have to first absorb some qualities. You have to become gun kare. then you will get the real gun, because that gun has a vowel under it, an ankar, suggesting that that is really nam, that one gun. However, when we come later to this Pauri, I want to just put out there, these are the thoughts that emerged in my mind. I get the sense that it is a matter of who's claiming what. I mean, Guru Nanak seems to be claiming one thing, I mean, along with Kabir, and they're challenging the Siddhs and the Pirs and the Surs, right? So I have some, I don't know, some reservations about reducing this to a game where one set of thought is really challenging another. Is that really how it is? The other thing that I want to put out there is that this Sunye can also be interpreted to listening, because listening was perhaps the most prevalent mode of communicating knowledge at that time. There wasn't much print. There was certainly no digital, media. So people listened in order to understand. And I see this progression as being listening to these people, trying to understand what they are doing, and trying to obtain knowledge of the world around you, your physical world, geography, about the planets, galaxies, creations. And then Sunye Pohina Sakya Kal, meaning you become indifferent to death. Death doesn't scare you anymore. That's really, I think, what is being said here, not that it doesn't touch you. So with that said, I'm going to open the forum to discussion, and I think I'll start with Chetandeep Singh.
Hanji Virji, yeah, thank you for that elaboration of the body. I really don't have anything useful to say, but I would still add few thoughts that came to my head. I think I should start by saying maybe the word that you addressed, dukh, and you went over the etymology of the word dukh. What I have actually heard is that rightly the word dukh is, or as I think the origin of the word is dukh or dukha, right? It's du and kha. And du is again, I think, the opposite of su. Like su means maybe changa and du means mada, like, right? Suputtar and so on. And kha, actually, what I have heard is it means an axle, like, or a center or tura. And for example, if we are having, it could simply be an analogy could be given. If you're having a good ride, dukha is the opposite of that, like a bad ride, like not a smooth ride. If you're riding in a bus and the axle is off of the wheel, that basically the ride is very bumpy. So it could be like dukha simply is that your life is a bumpy ride. So that said, I think I was listening to Gurjeet Virji, and he reminded me of a pankti. I think I don't remember the entire pankti, but it goes something like this: "Nae suniye, nae maniye." I think it comes in Sri Rag. You might better know that since you are on Sri Rag. But it's something like "Nae suniye, nae maniye." So I think again, my view is this is not physical listening, especially listening to, for example, Guru's instruction in form of Guru Granth Sahib. I think this listening is universal. It's either beyond all languages or in none of the languages. And again, it does have a mystical aspect to it, like as being listening to the sound of the universe and so on. But I think if we keep aside a mystical aspect for a moment and approach this from a very practical point of view, by starting from Nanak Bhakta Sada Vigas, Suniye Dukh Paap Ka Naas, right? I mean, if the result of, or if the consequence of Suniye is Vigas, then can we say that if we are in Vigas, that's what is Naam Sunna, Nae Suniye? Like the result of Naam Sunna is Vigas. And if we can see in our own life that we are in Vigas, Sada Vigas, that the life's ups and downs do not affect us. We are living, living an active life, but with detachment, or rather non-attachment, I would say. So that is living with Vigas. And if that is living with Vigas, then whatever we are listening, it need not be specific to a language or a religion, but the message of the Guru inside us. I think that's what Sunye is about. These are my thoughts, Virji.
Okay, thank you, Jaideep. Dilpreet Singh, what's your take on all of this mumbo
Right.
jumbo?
So, now I think to build on what you have said and what Virji has said, see, the Gun Kare, right? He said that Sikhism or Guruji is giving us the process to achieve guns. So now, if I need to expand on it, that Sikhism is the process of transformation, right? So transformation of our mind, actions, in a way to transform from Home to Hukam, we can have multiple examples. So foundation to all of this, or the first step, or the basic step without which the process is not going to start and this transformation process is never going to start or happen, is listening, active listening. Because if active listening is the characteristic or the characteristics of openness, thinking outside the box, and paying attention to what to your surroundings. So active listening or listening is the first thing or the basic of learning anything. So that is why I think Guruji is giving more and more emphasis on this. And before he is from active listening, he will take us to Manne, the implementation or understanding. So the first thing to understand or to learn is active listening. If somebody does not have that characteristics, that person is like a still water, and then it will get corrupted, because we need to be moving. And the key to learn or key to progress forward is listening. And then that is why I think we have 3 bodies on it, and so we need to develop this character. So he starts with this because this is the first basic step, I think, to learn anything. And then he is taking us to and then he's giving those examples that what will happen or what process is going to start. So we will do a second round, but to me, this is the basis of learning, and this is the first step without which nothing else is going to happen. So that is why more emphasis is given to learning and to active listening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What I'm trying to bring out I think Dilpreet, you touched on that before we get to this very sort of esoteric form of listening to Naam, which is, as we know, not physical hearing, I think, might it not be right, or might it not be a better starting point to think about the fact that the faculty of sort of listening is kind of like a continuum, right? Just like our mind, soul, spirit is a continuum. So physical hearing is enabled, by the senses, and we are distracted by the noise of our own minds. So then this, at the other end of the spectrum, is, I think, what Guru Nanak Ji is referring to here, is mystical hearing. Here the sound is obviously not physical. And now I feel that there is a spectrum, starting from ordinary hearing and then developing, as you said, attentive listening, and then working your way up to where the 8th Pauri is suggesting. I'm just putting this out there for consideration. I don't know if it makes any sense, but let me go to Ranavirji. Hanji Virji, Ranavirji.
Hanji, can you hear me, please?
Hanji, Hanji.
I think you and Dilpreet Virji made a very basic, the most important point is that learning is the starting point, and Suniye is the very essence of learning. The question has come up whether we are talking mystical learning, anhad naad di gal hoyi hai, or whether we are talking about listening to Naam. I think they all align very well. Yes, there might be continuum, but let's not forget Guru Sahib, during Guru Sahib's time, we didn't have Guru Granth Sahib at the time. The divine wisdom which came, Guru Nanak Sahib, that's my thinking anyways, I could be wrong. Guru Nanak Sahib said that Bani Aiye, and whenever he said that, because his level of intuition was so elevated that it's not that physical hearing it was coming to him, it was not the sound. I don't know how it came to him, but that is what he was alluding to. But what he did and what subsequent gurus did, they also listened to the same divine sound, mystical hearing, through mystical hearing, and they brought that mystical hearing, that divine knowledge, and then they transcribed that for us in this Bani. And that's why now Bani, what we call Nam, the divine wisdom which is out there, is Nam. So we are not able to get to that mystical level of awareness that we can hear that Anhad Shabad. But what we are given in this world, in this material world, we have only one resource which we call Nam. And Nam is the divine wisdom which resides here. It is exactly the same as that. Only thing is, the difference is that thing came to Bhagat and all those other individuals who have elevated themselves to that level. And that's Nanak Bhakta Sadavigas. So they are talking about when Bhagat or the elevated individuals were able to listen to that. But after they have listening, they have given us a resource from where we can draw. So I think the listening is the same thing. Yes, it is a fundamental, the first, very first thing we have to do. We have to develop divine wisdom, and that's Nam. And also, I think these 4 Pauris have to be read along with Maniya Pauris. Suniya and Maniya has come together many times in Gurbani and Guru Granth Sahib. So when we go to the Maniya Pauris, it's very clear there's a reference to Nam. And I think the same is here. We are talking about Nam. Sunna is whether, as Gurjeet Vidi was saying, that it is that mystical sound they were talking about. Yes, mystical sound was for Guru Sahib, not for us. For us, the divine wisdom resides here, and that's what we have to go. Other thing about Suniye, Sitpi, Sunna, Suniye, Tartavlaka, Suniye, Deeplo, Patal, Suniye, Puhuna, Sakeka. I think the take on that is, as you said, the Guru Sahib is moving on in a very in a progression from Siddhi to Tavalakash and Deeplo, and in a very subtle way. The whole point of that is that once you are able to have the divine wisdom, you have knowledge of all these material things, which Guru Sahib says, the Nanak Bhakta Sadavaga Suniya Dukh Pap Kanas, but then these physical things have no meaning at all to Bhakt. There's no Dukh, there's no Pap, there's nothing, no differentiation. And that's my small take on this one.
Hanji, thank you, Virji. Interesting, but we will continue. Hanji Kulwant Kaur Bhenji, welcome back.
Thank you. I think we all are agreeing upon one thing that, definitely Guru Sahib is emphasizing attentive listening and active listening. And we all are, I think, are accustomed to our conditional thinkings. We want to listen, we listen what we want to listen. So definitely, as you mentioned, that this might be a work in progress, so how we can transcend from, our conditional thinking to attentive listening, which Guru Sahib is emphasizing that transcends our limited consciousness and help us to gain access to deeper dimensions of knowledge and existence. So I think what we are listening, as you said that, what should be listened to? And I was trying to connect to the previous parties. And I saw the word, Gurmukh Nadan, he's talking about Nad, listening to those mystic sounds. And also he talked about this attentive listening in Mat Vich Ratan Jawahar Manik Je Ek Gur Ki Sikh Suni. So he mentioned listening in these lines too. But still, how can we attain this attentive listening that we are talking about? This is a work in progress. Just first listening to Guru's sake, and eventually we will reach to that state which is a subtle thinking, from physical listening to subtle listening, which is eternal. So this is a work in progress. That's, I think, a little bit I want to add on. Yes.
Thank you, Ji. Hanji, Jasbir Singh Vir Ji, I believe you're on.
Yes, I am here. Very Khalsa, very Fateh Ji.
Very Khalsa, very Fateh Ji.
Ji, I think suniye, the whole thing is about Naam. Naam da Japna, Naam da Gauna, Naam da Sunna, Naam da Manna. अब वो जाके जिस अगले पौड़ी के आने में पंच प्रधान, it is one of those 5 ways how to connect with Naam. So Sunna is one of those things. So by Sunna, by listening, we achieve all this knowledge. We achieve that level of higher consciousness, and that's how I see that. The Sunniya is one of those ways to connect with Naam. Not necessarily you japna ya manulena ya either you sing about it. So Sunniya gawe kutan. So the listening is one of those things that is as good as Japna, as good as Gauna. So this is one of those 5, I think. That's how it gets connected with the next Manna, and then comes 5 Panchpada. The 5 things is one of those 5. So listening is as good as Japna.
Hanji.
Listening is as good as Gauna. So this is how I think about it.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you very much. Inderveer Ji, I apologize. I didn't realize you were on.
Sorry for that. No, what I feel is that I just think like a layman thing, that Guru Sahib in the Japji Sahib is telling us stage by stage. First, he started with the Ek Onkar. There is one God, one thing where we have to reach. Then in between that, the podis are there. Then the podi comes Thapya na jai. How can we get it? He says Thapya na jai, Kita na hoy. Then Jin Sevya Tin Paya Mans. Then again, he's telling us all the stages. Now we have reached the stage of first stage. That is the Sunniya Siddh. Now how we will achieve it? Sunnah is very important. The first thing is Sunnah. And to my mind, the Sunnah has 3 or 4 stages, which are, first we have to listen to those stages. Then last come to your stage, which you have said, Suniye Dup Aapka Nas. So first is Suniye. Suniye is the first stage. Just I'm giving the example. I was going to play my golf, and when I was going out, my wife said, just go bring 4 bottles of Cokes on the Walmart and so fruit also. I just going out and I could listen only one thing. One or two things that she's saying so. So it is a casual thing, as Bhanji has very actually said, actual listening and passive things listening. So my listening is totally passive. She told and I listened. Then the things goes inside. When I was sitting in the car, she was saying 4 bottles. I said, no, she didn't know that the 3 bottles are lying outside in the fridge. So now this thing is going inside. And then when I'm going to buy the things, then I took 1 bottle. So now I'm coming to the conclusion The suniye is not only sunnah. Sunnah is having a various stages, and the last stage is dhyan. Dhyan is very important. First suniye, then comes the dhyan. So when we go deep into the dhyan, then our stage change. Then we come to the stage of suniye siddhpir. Then we become the siddhpir if we listen. And what we listen, that mentioned next podis. So suniye siddhpir sunnat, and these are the things we become if we listen carefully to the teaching and the preaching and what I said in the Japji Sahib. Now the last I come suniye dukh paap ka nas. What is suniye dukh paap ka nas? What is the dukh? Dukh is if I do something against the bhana. I want to do this thing and it's not happening, then I'm dukhi. The definition of dukh change person to person. It's not with the same with every person. So if I want to swim against the ocean, want to swim, and I want to swim against the whatever the lahars are there, then obviously I'll face a lot of problem. But if I swim with the lahar, then I will enjoy my swimming. So I should be within the bhana. If I'm with the bhana after suniye, then the dukh will not come to me. So the dukh will be taken care of. So then the vigas will automatically happen in my mind because I am not a dukhi person, because I have understood. So these are my way of thinking. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope I haven't left anybody out. We have a few minutes left. Let's do a quick second round. Chetandeep Singh, do you have any additional thoughts?
Hanji Virji, I was listening to the discussion and I do want to bring out another aspect of Suniye, since we spoke about the continuum and all aspects of it. So the way I also look at Suniye is that I do listen to the voices in my head all the time. There are active voices going on in my head. And what I mean by that is there are two kinds of voices in my head. You could categorize as Sukh di awaaz or Dukh di awaaz or whatever, or Satgur di awaaz or Man di awaaz. You could categorize it anyway. But an
How do you know
example
the difference?
the example that I would want to share here is the following, and that will make the difference clear. And the example is, let's say I have a friend or a family member, let's say you, right? And we have very good relations with each other, and I have done so many things for you. But once I ask you something, Virji, can you do this for me? And you say, no, you know what, I cannot do this. Or you speak very rudely to me, or you insult me or humiliate me in public, whatever. So that incident has happened. But now the voice in my head keeps replaying that over and over and over for whole day, whole month, whole life. That Ravinder Virji said this thing to me on a public forum, and thereby generating dukh for myself. So that is the awaz, voice in my head. Basically, nothing is happening, but a voice in my head that I am listening to. Suniye. On the other hand, it happens with me that a voice comes in my head that says, you know what, let it go. How does it matter? Who are you anyways? So that's a second awaz that elevates me or gives me vigas, that if I listen to, the result is vigas. So, and that happens with me. It plays out in my life every single day, that I just keep listening to these voices in my head and respond or react accordingly. Thank you, Virji.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Dilpreet Singh ji, let's see if you have voices that you hear too.
Right. So, see, there are two types of listening. One is the listening is necessary for learning. And for that active listening, if somebody has that quality, he cannot learn. Now, the other type of listening is, sometimes these big words confuse me, okay? This mystical listening, naad, sound, naam, dhyan, I think. But again, where I am taking is, Guruji is saying that, okay, you develop the active listening from outside so that you can learn from your surroundings. And then also he's saying that bande khoj dil har roj. Do the self-evaluation and listen to your inner voice. Listening to your inner voice, which can be referred as the voice of God. And then we all know that the inner voice will always tell us the truth. So if we sit and quietly evaluate, I think that is what is the mystical listening or naad or whatever we can give those big words. In Sikhism, that self-evaluation, and nobody is the better judge than yourself. So inside us is the judge which will tell us right and wrong. So we have to do the self-evaluation and then move on. So I take these listenings in two modes. One is listening and learning from outside, and then listening to your inner voice, and then doing the corrective action. So those are two modes of listening to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think the sense that we are picking up is that attentive listening or even listening can be the starting point of radical transformation. Because if you listen and pay attention, even to, as Dilpreet says, and I agree with you, by the way, Dilpreet, I think it has to start with learning. It has to start with being sensitive to your environment. Because if you're not sensitive to your environment, there's no way that you could be sensitive to the inner sort of voice or the mystical voice. There's absolutely no way. So it does begin with how sensitive you've become to what is around you in a very physical way. And then it develops, as I said, as a continuum. And then you get to a stage where silence becomes the sound that you're listening to eventually. But yes, so Ranavirji, any second thoughts to offer?
Yes, I think we raised both Chetan Deep and Dilpreet Ji raised a few fundamental questions, and I have to sit back and think. One, coming back to for Chetan Deep's question, that he gave an example uh, of inner voice, that the inner voice is coming because of the conflict. The question I would have for him, that all these voices are perpetual, they fade away after some time. This is how the memory works. So then the question comes, do you always have these inner voices, those voices? My answer to that is no. After some time, these things are going to disappear because your memory fades away. So you wouldn't have those voices. It might be temporary phenomena. The second question, which I have debated many times with myself, we have been talking about all the time about inner voice. When Dilpreet Vijay said, uh, he read took the bande khoj inside, whatever the line was. Okay, you have to search inside yourself. The question which comes to my mind is, what is that? Do we hear any voice inside us? Is there, when Guru Sahib is basically saying is that you find inside yourself. I think here what is happening is that all the voices are in your head. There's nowhere else. And if your intuition is elevated enough, this is what Guru Nanak Sahib, when he is talking about Naad and Anhad Naad, that he Shabad Surt, that Shabad Guru Nanak Sahib listened to, what he was listening was everything coming into his brain. That means it was coming internally, although it is coming from outside. So I think we have to be very clear when we talk about inner voice. Inner voice is basically the outside voice which is penetrating your brain. And you're listening to your brain, you're not listening anywhere else. It's not the music going on outside. So everything is happening inside you. But whatever is happening inside you, as Guru Nanak Sahib's happened in Guru Sahib's inside, but everything came also from outside. That's what he was listening, but he was able to listen only once it has penetrated inside your brain. So the question is, in my mind, is when we talk inner voice, we have to be clear that there's no inner voice per se. It is the voice which came from outside, is residing in your brain. That's how I think.
Anji, thank you, Jivirji. I just wanted to comment on what you said earlier about this being a temporary phenomena, meaning what Chetan Deep described, this inner voice. If I was rude to him and he sort of plays it over and over again, and you suggested that memory might fade, I can assure you that this memory does not fade in a lot of people, in my own experience. My wife remembers things that I said 40 years ago. So just as an aside, I don't think it fades. It does fade in some people, but not in everybody. So that said, Hanji, Jasbir Singh, Kulwant Kaur Bhenji, any second thoughts, any final thoughts?
Hanji, Vijay, I think I agree with Chetandeep too, because I have the same experiences too. You know, like two voices inside I call that one inner noise and one a very calm and peace voice. I experienced that state of mind too. And at the same time, you know, like Dilpreet Virji said, you know, this is, I mean, when you are experiencing the process of Khoj Dil Har Roj Wala jo system hega, you know, when you go through this process, Khoj Dil Har Roj Wala, then eventually you may someday, I'm not sure when, you know, you will find your own divinity, and, you know, these things will go away and you will be in a just calm state of mind where there's nothing occurs. But at this point, we are all experiencing our conditional thinking, you know. We have that, yes. So the whole thing is to transcend it and to, you know, gain an access to deeper dimensions. So that's the process. Yes. Yeah.
ठीक है जी. Jasbir Singh Virji, any final thoughts on this?
I think he dropped off.
He dropped off. Okay. Anji Satinder Singh Virji, any final thoughts?
Just I want to, thinking in the way as Chetandeep and Panchit also said the things, that there are so many things are coming up within ourselves. So many voices are there. My own mind, 24 hours talking, and I have to listen to it. Sometimes I listen to it, sometimes I don't listen to it. So now ultimately here the Suniye is a choice with me, that I should listen only that things which helps me, which the terms coming to you, Suniye do paap ka nas. I should restrict myself the only those things by doing which do paap ka nas ho, and there should be a vikas. So I personally feel that the Suniye can be done to reference to my choice, and my choice should be limited to the Suniye do paap ka nas. So I can categorize my Suniye process as well. So that's my way of thinking.
ठीक है जी. Thank you very much. I think we've had a very interesting discussion around the whole idea of Suniye. It seems to me that this is a work in progress, and we can extend it out as much as we want to, or actually switch it as early as we want to. That those are choices we can make. But again, I thank you all for your input, and hopefully we will converge next week. Till then, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.